Could a Klay Thompson move be on the horizon soon with Bradley Beal and DeMar DeRozan off the board? Hopefully that day remains sooner now rather than later. Welcome back to your Heat latest on FanArc. I'm your host, Sam Shapiro. If you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube yet, stop what you're doing right now. Click that subscribe button. We have great daily content that you don't want to miss all right here Monday through Friday. Also, go show some love on Facebook. You can also check out our content over there as well. Now, I'm back from vacation, and a lot has happened in the time from when I was away up until now, most notably the Heat's second and third priorities that they had, at least in free agency, have come off the board over the last couple of days. Bradley Beal re-signing with the Los Angeles Clippers on a 2-year, $13 million deal. And DeMar DeRozan signing a new deal with the Golden State Warriors. He got that contract on it's a 2-year, $8.4 million contract that DeRozan signed with Golden State. Still no movement that I've seen on my end with Klay Thompson, but what else is new at this point? Look, I understand that Klay Thompson is still the priority for Miami, and I still believe that he should be, but does that not mean we can't do anything else in the time from when we're going to see something happen with Klay getting out of this contract or not? It's just frustrating to watch every single option B, option C, option Z all start to kind of come off the board as Miami kind of just sits and waits here for this Klay Thompson thing to change. Nothing ultimately changes except for the fact that now there's 1, 2, maybe 3 less players for Miami to go for now that all of this time has gone and transpired. So at this point, I'm going to be pretty disappointed if Klay doesn't end up in Miami. Doesn't necessarily mean that I'm personally upset that Miami has missed out on DeMar and Bradley Beal in particular. It's just, again, annoying to see potential options come off the board in what I think is ample time that Miami could be looking at other options if Klay isn't going to be there. But going back to what I was saying about DeMar and Beal here, it doesn't even necessarily seem like, considering some of the reporting I've seen out there, that Miami was head over heels with trying to get something done with DeRozan or Beal either. Skolnick, in fact, even reacted to the signing with Bradley Beal last week, saying that the Heat never wanted Bradley Beal and that the only thing left for Miami to embark on this offseason is signing a Klay Thompson. Him basically signaling that the Heat are confident that Klay will be bought out and that the Heat will get him. Skolnick had a little bit more on this as well, talking about if Nikola Jovic is playing a role in holding up Klay's eventual arrival to Miami. Now, the quote I, or at least saw circulating around said, quote, "Would they trade Nico? In the right scenario, yes. They would move the contract. Are they eager to? Not necessarily." Now, there are some inside who think Nico can be salvaged. To say that's what's holding up the Klay thing is ridiculous. Nothing is holding it up other than the buyout being finalized. When it is, he will be the Heat's 13th player. Now, I admire the confidence and the continued reporting on this particular situation from Skolnick here, but there still isn't an indication, at least from what I'm picking up here, on what a when could be in this scenario, that being when Klay Thompson could be expected to be bought out, when a deal being finalized with Miami could be in the cards. And to me, it seems like this scenario still is in a standstill. Hopefully this has some truth to it here. A potential Nico trade is not holding up this situation, but regardless on when this might be, I like what Klay had to say on a recent stream with Blackboy Max, that him talking about he particularly said he wants to compete for a championship, not necessarily win one, but have the chance to compete and try to win a title and play a role on a team that can make a deep playoff run. I mean, definitely Miami fits that mold, I would say, relatively well at this point in time. So this at least makes me believe that if he does come to Miami, Klay will be ready to compete. But now with the hopes of, at least from Skolnick's reporting here, seeming rather high that Klay is going to end up in the 305, I'd be pretty upset if he ultimately doesn't end up in Miami at this point by the start of the regular season in October. But if the timing isn't right, potentially in February as well. Drop in the comments what you guys think. But this kind of ties back to some reporting I had from Skolnick, I believe last week, in terms of filling out the rest of the roster here. Assuming Clay still gets that 13th roster spot. Last week we had mentioned Skolnick, So last week we had mentioned Skolnick, saying that the 14th spot on the roster would be left open to a competition among several players in training camp. Skolnick also said that he saw this move was more likely than Miami going after a potential route of signing a veteran to this specific spot. Now, we're going to talk about two veterans that could still be signed here in the back half of today's episode. But before we do that, I think it's definitely worth talking about the possibility of Trey Donaldson getting this 14th roster spot here. Miami's been interested in the undrafted free agent pretty much the second the draft ended. They scooped him up on a two-way deal pretty much within minutes of the second round ending. I personally liked him from the jump just because bit of a, I would say, stockier point guard type in terms of build. And then in terms from the signs we'd seen from his play this past summer in the Summer League, playmaking and scoring ability, also carrying over from his last stint with the Miami Hurricanes, I definitely think he's got a lot of potential to be a point guard that could benefit on Miami's roster and could definitely be worthy of that 14th roster spot. Also, very interesting to see Davion Mitchell mentoring Donaldson as Trey prepares for training camp. Mitchell has been taking Donaldson under his wing just through working out with him a bunch over the course of this summer. Through intense off-season workouts and summer runs, alongside other professional players like Bam Adebayo and Cade Cunningham. Now, getting this support from getting this support from a guy like Davion Mitchell, who has really developed and come into his own with Miami, is definitely only going to help Trey Donaldson's confidence. I mean, you don't also need to jump the gun necessarily on Donaldson yet because he's on that two-way contract still. But, I mean, look, I wouldn't be upset to see him get upgraded to a standard deal at this point in time, especially over a guy like Vlad Golden. I mean, Miami still desperately looking for that playmaker, and if they have more trust in a guy that has been kind of taken under the wing of a guy like Davion Mitchell, who's really come into his own through this system, I mean, I could see Miami having more trust and wanting to invest more in that type of experiment and how that may or may not pan out well for the Heat in comparison to going back out into the free agent market and hoping to find a better result from a veteran type of player that could fill that void in comparison to trying to develop what they've already got in shop here. So I don't necessarily think it's the worst idea in the world, but I definitely think in terms of a player to watch in this training camp battle, Trey Donaldson is definitely going to be one of the front runner guys, at least going into training camp. And kind of tying back here a little bit to Davion Mitchell, I feel like we've seen him a little bit all over the place this summer in terms of just, at least in terms of what seems like he's been all over the place with where he's been working out. I've continued to see him more in content, particularly like that over the last couple of days as well. One instance I had seen a video I had seen him over the last week or so, I think, that featured some pro runs in Miami. Now, Miami is a city in general where just a lot of NBA players like to come work out during the off season. Recently, over the last few days, I had seen clips of a run that featured a lot of guys on the Miami Heat, but also some veteran players in the mix as well. James Wiseman was there, Ahmed Thompson was there, Victor Oladipo, but Nick Richards, I think, was another veteran player kind of in the mix there that I also thought was particularly interesting to see, because I believe this also hasn't been the first time Richards has been seen working out with Davion Mitchell, whether it be a standard workout or a pro run, kind of like this this clip here. I'd mentioned him on the channel here a number of times over the last couple of weeks, honestly at this point, months or so, as a athletic rim protector, big man that Miami could potentially consider adding with that 14th roster spot here. I mean, I'd definitely still be down to add him on a veteran minimum contract, and it's nice to at least see him at least in a I guess situation like this, to see him maybe building some chemistry with guys on the Heat's roster like Davion Mitchell as of late. So while still considering, I haven't seen, unfortunately, any recent reports over the last few weeks suggesting that Miami is truly considering giving him a deal. Seeing clips of him training with other Heat players at least leads me to believe that Richard's actually coming to South Beach. The idea of it isn't completely out of the question, at least at this point in time. So depending on how Miami now tries to navigate filling out the rest of their roster, I'm at least keeping Nick Richards as, at least for me, a hope in terms of a big man that could potentially be on Miami's radar. Lastly, one other guy that I think Miami could look at now, actually more recently over the last couple of days, given how some transactions have kind of transpired with him, Haywood Highsmith could potentially be in the cards for a reunion with the Miami Heat after this past weekend. I thought it was pretty interesting. Seeing the forward get waived by Phoenix last week, I believe it was on August 12th. But, I mean, Miami could definitely consider bringing him back on a veteran minimum. Pretty solid 3-and-D wing guy, and especially bringing him in that particular situation for a pretty penny back of the roster. I mean, this is definitely a quality forward that I think Miami could benefit from getting. He shot 38% from three through his career. He's already got experience playing in Miami. And I just think it's a low-risk, solid reward type of option Miami could definitely go for. Granted, Miami ended up dealing him to Brooklyn, I believe, last summer. Then goes from Brooklyn to Phoenix. Never actually played in Brooklyn. Played 7 games in Phoenix. I mean, it was only 7 games, and he didn't play a whole lot, but he still shot the deep ball 57% roughly from 3. But in each of his last 2 seasons with Miami, Highsmith, who averaged roughly 22 minutes, averaged about 6 points per game, 45% shooting from the floor, around 38% from 3. My guy, definitely giving some PJ Tucker vibes, shooting around 44% from the corner. So at least offensively, he could definitely be at least a guy that could help out with spacing in terms of where he would be able to get some of his buckets on the offensive end. Well, get some of his fair share of buckets, to say the least. But defensively, I mean, that's really, I think, the caveat in bringing him in, and especially him being the 14th guy on Miami's roster, considering that he can the different size of positions, just the number of different players he has the ability to guard. He's matched up against a lot of different players. He's done a very solid job in his most recent years with Miami, matching up against guys like Jason Tatum, LaMelo Ball, Jaylen Brown, Paolo Banchero. Be a really solid defensive player at the wing. Like I said before, can do a really good job matching up against a lot of different players, can guard multiple positions. So if you can bring in a guy like that off a veteran minimum, why not use your 14th roster spot to bring him in? And then looking at a lineup just on paper of Wiggins, Giannis, Bam, Mitchell, and Highsmith, I mean, good luck to opposing offenses matching up against that defensively. Haywood Highsmith, I think, definitely would round out that lineup defensively. Drop in the comments what you guys think. That's going to do it for this Monday's episode of your Heat Latest on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We have great daily content you don't want to miss, all right here, Monday through Friday. Once again, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro. Hope you guys have an awesome start to your week.